Why buy someone else's old problems? Resale homes often come with outdated appliances, inefficient insulation, and costly hidden repairs. City Ventures offers a better way. Our brand new homes feature modern open floor plans, stylish fixtures, and the peace of mind that comes with a builder's warranty. Everything is fresh, functional, and designed for how you live today. Skip the renovation headaches and move into something perfect. Find your new beginning at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 111 of 2025. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can find me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Oddsbreakers. Follow us on social media / the Oddsbreakers. This episode is being brought to you by FanDuel Sports, a proud partner of the NFL. If you'd like to support the Oddsbreakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. Pick any. For winning cappers, you get the premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. And if nothing else, please visit the Oddsbreakers and become a free picks and Telegram subscriber. We have a fantastic show for you today, my friends. I'm going solo. Fantasy football is over. I have a shot to win my Dynasty League. I'm kind of the odds say I'm going to win, but it's only 72%. So this can change if Bijan Robinson completely goes off. But I was really happy about that. Huge thanks to Dave D Nasty for always coming in and breaking down fantasy football. But now it's all about the playoffs. And we're going to have great shows for you. A little bit different of a schedule change coming up. I'm most likely only doing one other show this week because we are covering the rest of the bowls today. And we'll have to cover the playoffs next week. But being that New Year's Day is on a Thursday, that's a popular day that we record is Thursday for the weekend. Not going to really ask too many guests to show up. Maybe I get one, maybe I don't. But, it's the kind of day where we're going to sit there and want to watch football all day. We're not going to want to go on a show. We want to watch the college football playoffs. And I think that it's going to be a fun day. And the Rose Bowl and, all the big bowls coming up. Obviously, the 31st, New Year's Eve. Since we're discussing the bowl games on this show, really no need to talk about college football on that day. But I definitely want to talk some NFL because this week's all about motivation. There's going to be some pretty big line moves coming up, some serious line moves. And there's going to be a lot of hard decisions that these coaches are going to make. Black Monday is a week from right now. I'm recording on Monday. And we're going to find out which coaches survive and which coaches do not survive. And for that show, I'm going to be going solo as well. And then I'm going to have to record for later next week as I'm going to be gone, celebrate my 50th in Puerto Vallarta. So there won't be a college basketball show on the 9th on Friday like there would normally be after New Year's. I am going to talk some college basketball no matter what for my show that I'm going to record either myself on the 1st in the morning before all the big games or whenever I get a guest. So I'm going to get into college basketball for the next podcast to get right on the Odds Breakers schedule that we've been doing over the last 8 years and continue to keep the same format because I am a massive fan of college basketball and very excited for the upcoming season. Also want to discuss our NFL Survivor. You guys need to get into this Survivor. There's 212 entries already of a max of 10,000. I created this Survivor on Splash Sports. Just to go ahead and look for it. It's one of the biggest ones out there for Splash Sports right now from an entry. Up now 214. Got 214 entries. And so it's $20 a pop. I would love for you guys to join. You can use multiple entries, up to 5 per person. I don't want one dude like buying 30 of them and making almost every combination his. But I think it's going to be a great time if you join us, and we have revivals. Meaning if everybody goes out like wild card weekend, we all revive until the Super Bowl, because revivals mean less winners. We have to split up less times. And there's a total pot if we get 10,000 of $175,000. Now we're only up to 214. But being that people are going to start thinking playoffs, maybe this baby grows. I'd love it if you guys could get in. Just go to splashsports.com and sign up for our Survivor. All right, little recap. Bowl season's been crushing it for us. 16-6 so far. And I'm pretty happy about that. We hit our biggest play, San Diego State, and it did take a backdoor to do so. But I just knew that coach, even with the backup quarterback, even though North Texas had their starting quarterback, would definitely put up a big fight, and that's what they did. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I had plus 3.5, and that line crawled all the way up to 6.5, 7. So I was on the wrong side of the line move. But the line moves have been pretty dang awful so far when it comes to bowl season. So I don't trust them a lot myself, and a lot of times I'll go against it. And it's actually been cashing out pretty well by doing that. But either way, we discussed those same topics last week with Brad Powers. So if you want to refresh on that, just go back to our last podcast and get some of our plays from there. Obviously, some of the plays that are going to be made from today, tomorrow, is on that show. And then starting on this show, I'll be doing college football on the 31st. NFL, whew, what a crazy weekend in the NFL. Interesting Saturday games. Can't believe the Packers just got thrown around like that in the trenches. Derrick Henry, absolute freaking beast. Are you kidding me? He had one of those massive Derrick Henry games. And then John Harbaugh wakes up from his stupidity and actually runs the ball with him instead of like he screwed it up not running him at all during the last 12 minutes of the previous game and lost. Man, John Harbaugh can be such a dunce. But, I'll tell you this. They don't win this Steelers game. It would not shock me to see him one of those coaches to fall on Black Monday. Of course, the Steelers beating or losing to the Browns with Hussey as the ref. Everyone's saying it's scripted, it's rigged. You'll never find a script because that would literally be proof, and the NFL would be stupid enough to have a script. But the refs know what they're doing. The refs know what's going to bring the numbers. Hussey, the biggest home ref out of all of them. Sheffers is second. I mean, come on, guys. Seriously, that's not pass interference there in the end zone. Yeah, that is straight up pass interference every other freaking play I see. The guy not turning around. But hey, this helped me. I got the Ravens plus 185 on a beer bet banger, and actually I put more than a beer bet on it. But it's a situation where even though it helped me, I still have to call the bullshit. And that was pass interference. The Steelers should have had a chance to tie that game up. At the same time, the Steelers played like crap during the game. A lot of things went the Browns' way. Shador didn't play that great. But this is also...
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Looking for a home that keeps you connected to Silicon Valley without the usual barriers to entry? The Gates in Morgan Hill by City Ventures is a walkable neighborhood near downtown restaurants, outdoor trails, and an easy commute to the Bay Area. It's a small town setting with access to major career hubs. Every home is all electric with buyer-owned solar included. With limited availability, now's the time to take a closer look. Discover your new home at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
From DK Metcalf's stupidity. What a dunce. Freaking hitting another field. What a dunce, man. These people are paid millions of dollars just to be complete idiots. It blows my mind. If I can just be an idiot and as talented as DK Metcalf, man, my life would be a lot easier. Otherwise, the Chargers, there was they played like crap. They played like crap against the Texans. The penalty that was called was absolutely absurd. Now, they weren't getting a lot of calls that game, so it's like, saying that, the refs were mean to them or anything. Well, I mean, that play changed the outcome of the game. I'm one of those people that are like, if you can make a call every game, the calls should be a little bit more even from a game-to-game basis, But, when you call illegal contact and it's literally the receiver that runs up to you and shoves you, it's absolute batshit crazy. But the Chargers, during the rest of the game, didn't do enough to win. The Texans bullied them around, scored 2 touchdowns right away, put the Chargers on the back of their feet. And now the Texans are a very dangerous playoff team. And the reason they're a very dangerous playoff team is because they're the only freaking team in the AFC that actually has a defense. There has not been a lot of defenses this year. There hasn't. I mean, if you really want to look at the NFC doesn't have a ton of defense either. The Eagles are playing a little bit better defense now. The Rams, solid. The Seahawks have a really good defense. The Niners do not, But there you go. Look at how hot the Niners are. The Niners are the hottest freaking team in the league. And that game was so fun to watch. As a Bears fan, disappointed, but still like, wow. I mean, the fact that they made it this far, they won the division before that even happened, was just crazy fun for all Bears fans across the nation. The good, the bad, and the ugly of the weekend. And starting with the good, the Hawaii Bowl. How about that? Kicking off Christmas Eve. That overhit, woo! Made it a fun Christmas Eve. And then NFL dogs the next day. Every freaking dog covered. Every one. And the Vikings won outright. My NFL Christmas Day parlay. I cannot believe you were that bad, Jared Goff. I cannot freaking. I would play that parlay again at the number I had. I had minus 120. That thing was the best you can get is in the minus 140s by close. And holy crap, did you suck off. I mean, 6 turnovers. Jesus. How about UTSA? Well, that was one of my bowl losses. I had FIU as a great number at plus 8.5. The FIU goes up 14-0. UTSA just bitched them all the way across the field. There's just too many opt-outs on FIU's defense, too. And UTSA is just a dangerous team. And, yeah, the American is better conference. San Diego State's backdoor, as I mentioned already. I needed that really bad. And bowl bets have been really good. Derrick Henry's 4 TDs. What a freaking beast. 200 yards, 30-some carries at his age, 32 years old. Freaking Derrick Henry, man. You deserve better than Harbaugh and Lamar right now. It's funny, this whole Lamar-Harbaugh thing. I think they're both kind of the problem in a way. Now, they both probably need to get away from each other. I think they'd be both more successful without each other right now. Bears winning division on Saturday. Whew. That was fun. But the shitty thing for Bears fans is that they're most likely going to have to play the Packers as a 2 seed. And the Packers are better than the Bucks. They're better than the Panthers. They're better than the freaking Eagles. Even though the Eagles are kind of their kryptonite, the Packers are the Bears' kryptonite. And it sucks because that's the team you don't want to lose to because you share a border with them. They're in their division. There's shit talking left and right. It is... I mean, I as a fan, I'd much rather lose to the Rams or Seahawks at home than the Packers. It's such a weird dichotomy because as just a sports bettor and as a player, as a mind, you'd probably rather play the Packers than either of those two teams. But, man, they're going to be resting this week, and it's just, Jesus. Tyler shucking and jiving throughout the freaking win column. Up to 6 wins. And now I have to sweat out that wonderful early number I got on the under 6.5. Oh, my God. I'm going to have to probably put a bet on them this week. I am not happy that I have to sweat that under 6.5 win total. Tyler Shuck probably is the rookie of the year on offense. Kyle Shanahan, man. No Chiefs, baby. You got no Chiefs to run into the Super Bowl this year, Shanahan. This could be your year. You know what is good? There's actually going to be some motivation for playoff seeds. Not so much in the AFC. I feel like everybody wants to play the Patriots. But definitely in the NFC, I feel like the Rams don't want to be the last seed or the 6th seed. I think the Rams, if somehow, whoever upsets the Bears, they want to host that second playoff game. So I think that's kind of interesting that their division is so strong, yet they're all going to kind of want to have a little bit better of a wild card seed. Yeah, that's kind of, I feel it's shaping up like that. Sunday Night Football. There's the first time the game was ever tied 7-7, 14-14, 21-21, 28-28, and 35-35. First time ever in NFL history. What a freaking shootout. Not a lot of defense, but dude, I don't think any defenses were going to stop those teams the way that they were playing ball. Start out with a pick six. That was the best Sunday Night Football of all year. Now for the bad, just Christmas football in general, I was pretty uninterested. I had it on, but gross. I mean, it was ugly play. I had no care for any of those teams. Just, I guess the biggest shock was just watching how bad the Lions looked. Netflix, they're behind schedule with me. Some other people were a little bit closer, but they're always about 1.5 to 2.5 plays behind. And their broadcast was freaking to puke. I could not believe how bad Nate Burleson is. These guys are just trash. I mean, Ian Eagle and Noah Eagle are good. But, dude, the trash that they put on to try to entertain us, they look like a bunch of freaking morons. Chargers offensive line, they just got decimated by the Texans. Pitt Panthers, how about that loss to ECU? I live bet Pitt. I'm like, all right, instead of -10, I got -4.5. Well, shit. That freaking died off pretty quick. How do you lose to an AAC team that lost a bunch of guys to the transfer portal and didn't play? Holy shit. And you had your quarterback. Missed pass interference in the end zone for the Steelers. I already mentioned that. What the hell? Game time delays. Oh, no, I know I wrote down. Watching the game with a buddy who's always on FanDuel or DraftKings and telling you, oh, a bad thing's going to happen to your Bears. Oh, a good thing's going to happen. I don't want to hear that shit. I have to stream this game or I'm watching on cable, which is way the fuck behind an actual normal broadcast. This happens to most people nowadays. You're way behind the game and you have some friend of yours, he's one of my best friends, but still annoyingly telling you something good or something bad's going to happen because he's staring at his freaking DraftKings or FanDuel. God dang it. It's so annoying. I almost threw his phone in the pool. Saints season win total, like I said. I'm sweating that out. Ugly. Jared Goff and Dan Campbell. You missed the playoffs. Bears win the division. Freaking almost got to the 1 seed. Holy shit, man. That is just ugly right now for those two. Rolstad. Dude, that penalty on a 3rd down on a sack. The Chargers stopped the Texans, and you call a terrible penalty that was actually more on the offense, and you call it on defense. Why is that not reviewable? Why do we have to put up with this? Lamar Jackson got snooped this week because Snoop Huntley looked a lot more capable than him lately. That's just so weird over there. Max Brosmer winning with less than 60 freaking passing yards.
You play to win the game.
Also, Arizona Cardinals. They are so freaking injured. I don't even know how they can put guys out there. They're done. They're done. And that coach, Gannon, he's got to be toast. Jets' whole organization, they made a terrible coach hire, Aaron Glenn didn't have a good defense with the Lions. And yeah, he had a lot of injuries too, but they weren't good. They only looked good against really bad teams, like the Bears last year with Eberflus. I mean, Jets, you are freaking awful. the Buccaneers' loss to Miami. I mean, that was almost the ugliest. But it's like this was a survivor play in Circa. There's like now, 6 people left for $18 million, $18.7 million. The Bucs losing to Miami. Oh my God. I would have took Cincinnati. I heard somebody on VSiN say he decided to go with the Bucs, and I was like, ugh. Dude, Miami did it to me. They did it to me. They smoked the freaking Atlanta Falcons. And Miami just took out some more guys. A third of the rest of Circa Survivor. And finally, Sean McDermott. That was some of the worst freaking game plan I've seen against an Eagles team that couldn't even... The Eagles didn't even complete a freaking pass in the second half. They couldn't even complete a pass. And your dumbass, like you're an away team, finally gets momentum and scores a touchdown when you miss an extra point. When you miss an extra point, it means the guy's making the next one. And you freaking go for 2. That was your whole freaking plan, is go for 2. Flip a freaking coin when you have the crowd, the momentum. The Eagles can't do nothing. You literally go for 2 points like a complete and utter dipshit. All right, now it's time for a little NFL Week 17 misleading final scores. The Lions outgained the Vikings 231-161, yet lost 23-10. A 6-0 turnover ratio killed the Cats. The Bills outgained the Eagles 331-190, yet lost 13-12. A 1-0 turnover ratio. Poor special teams and bad coaching got the Billikens. The Steelers outgained the Browns 291-262, yet lost 13-6. They won the turnover battle 2-0, but poor red zone bad officiating got the Steelers. And the Buccaneers outgained the Dolphins 380-298, yet lost 20-17. A 3-0 turnover ratio and bad quarterback play sunk their ship. NFL Week 18 betting spots. Letdown spots. The Browns could be soft at Cincinnati after the big win against the Steelers. The Vikings could be softer against the Packers after a big Lions win. The Packers can't improve their 7th seed and may just play a half, so that's kind of let downy. I don't see why they would play either quarterback personally. Why? You might need them both. The Chargers may not care about their seed or upsetting Denver, because everyone seems to want to play the Patriots, and the Bills, same thing. They could rest their guys and be happy. But I think the Bills' third string could beat the starting Jets. That's another thing. The Bills the Bills fans might be able to beat the Jets. Get up spots. The Bears will try to win for a 2 seed. The Eagles will try to win for a 2 seed, even though it's stressful on the fans. The Colts will try to salvage their season and play spoiler against the Texans. So I think the Colts will, and I think the Titans will try to play spoiler as well. And I can see them being motivated. Titans have been motivated all year. They just finally started winning a few games here. Look ahead spots. The Packers clearly looking to the playoffs. Packers. Now, any wild card team here, even though I mentioned I think there's motivation in the NFC, every wild card team is in danger of not putting up a huge effort. Right? That worries you. I'll mention them right now. You have the Niners, Seahawks, and Rams. We don't know what's going to win the division yet and take the 1 seed. They're all possible. Actually, I don't think that it's possible for the Rams, but either way, you have obviously the division winners in the Eagles, who could get the 2 seed, so they will be motivated. And clearly, Carolina is playing the Tampa Bay Bucks for the 1 seed. Then you also have the Chargers, the Bills, the Texans / Jaguars. No one's won that division. Well, the Texans and Jaguars will be motivated, but the Chargers and the Bills are kind of the ones with a little bit more questionable motivation, according to the market, especially when you're looking at these lines, right? Short rest. The Falcons after Monday night hosting the Saints, and the Rams after Monday night hosting the Cardinals. Long rest. The Broncos after Christmas hosting the Chargers. The Chiefs after Christmas at the Raiders. The Vikings after Christmas hosting the Packers. The Lions after Christmas at the Bears. The Cowboys after Christmas at the Giants. The Commanders after Christmas at the Eagles. Some of those, like the Packers, at least had an extra day, right? In the Chargers, but it's still not as long as rest as the others. The Texans after Saturday night hosting the Colts, and the Ravens after Saturday night at the Steelers have the extra rest. All right. Now it's time for some college football playoffs and bowls, December 31st to January 2nd. Starting with the playoffs, CFB quarterfinal, Miami versus Ohio State. -9.5, total 42.5 at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas on ESPN, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Everyone's motivated here. No home field advantage. Maybe a few more Buckeye fans, but Ohio State has a net yard per play advantage of plus 1.05. The key stats here. Ohio State's the number 1 offensive success rate, number 4 in defensive EPA. They're probably the best team in the nation, really, on both sides of the ball. Ohio State has the dudes to run with Malachi Toney, Daniels, Marion. Both strength of schedules are up there. I will say that Ohio State's number 2 red zone defense is probably really number 1. Just statistically, they're number 2. Unfortunately, my power ratings don't get to the 9.5. It gets to 7.5. So it's just still kind of in limbo here. I'd be definitely more inclined to lay 9.5 with Ohio State, but I don't think Miami's going to score a lot. As a matter of fact, you see a lot of team totals out there at 16.5, minus 120. I kind of like that. I'm even going to go a little bit farther and look at some other books that have some offshores with the 19.5 laying at juice minus 165. That kind of gives you a little fail-safe of the 17 and maybe even the 18th point if in case Buckeyes have 21, score, 2-point conversion type situation, get to 18. But either way, I do like that team total under. I don't think Miami scores much more than 9 points, maybe 12. It's a situation where I don't think Ohio State lets them in the end zone. I know Carson Beck does have some playoff pedigree, but Ohio State for me, they win this game. Thursday, January 1st, the quarterfinal, Capital One Orange Bowl, Oregon versus Texas Tech. Texas Tech plus 1.5 total. 52.5 from our friends at FanDuel. And this is going to be a great game. As you know, Texas Tech coming on in. This is kind of moved to 2.5, actually. Yeah, I probably have to call this 2.5 now. But the Hard Rock Stadium, it's going to be in Miami. You're going to get a lot of fans from both, in my opinion. I know Oregon's got a lot farther to travel than some of the Texas Tech fans, but Oregon's probably a bigger fan base. Oregon's got a net yard per play advantage of just 0.45, and as you know, Oregon had the most net yards per play out of any team. But nothing's more important to me when looking at this game as 2 things. Pedigree. Oregon's got the pedigree, and the strength of schedule disparity. 17th for Oregon, Texas Tech 68th. It's not Texas Tech's fault. They can only play what's in front of them, but if there's a weakness on the Red Raiders, they don't run the ball well, 46th in rush EPA, and that's how you attack Oregon, because Oregon ranks only 48th in opponent rush EPA on defense and 9th in opponent pass EPA. So, I have Texas Tech about a half point better just from straight power ratings. I just think the explosiveness of Dante Moore and Oregon's offense is where I give them the edge. I think this game could be one in the trenches. Both are very good there, but I favor Oregon. Don't get me wrong. It wouldn't shock me for a Texas Tech win as well. But here I just have to go with the pedigree and the Ducks. And I think we're in the close one, 27-24. I like Oregon on the money line. It's at 134 now. I gave it out before with Brad Powers at minus 125 for 2 stars.
Happy New Year!
Rose Bowl. Alabama versus Indiana. Indiana minus 6.5, total 48.5. I knew it would start going down a little bit. In Pasadena on ESPN, everyone's motivated. Indiana's got a massive net yards per play advantage of plus 1.67. the key stats, there's a few things that stick out to me here. Alabama had the harder strength schedule, ranking third. Indiana's ranked 42nd. But it's hard to believe that when Indiana, played some of the best in the Big Ten, including Ohio State and Oregon. And sure, they got Penn State at a good time, but still, they played Iowa too. This whole strength of schedule does not look as big as what Sagarin shows. And I do trust Sagarin. It's just, I do disagree with some stuff time to time. It's usually the strength of schedule stuff. Indiana's just the most solid team of any football team this year. Number 5th, or actually, sorry, top 5 in both offensive and defensive success rates. Alabama's 50th in offensive success rate. They can't run the ball that well. So here's the thing. A lot of people are thinking the pedigree comes in, and that very much well could be true. Maybe it does. But Indiana doesn't make mistakes, and they're consistent. They're just very consistent, punch you in the mouth. Defense is very tight. Simpson's going to be running for his life a little bit. I know that Indiana lost their best, or one of their best defensive linemen, which sucks. But next man up, right? The truth is that we're kind of fortunate this year because a lot of these teams really don't have that many injuries, But Daly's out for Indiana. A few other questionable, but Alabama's got their strings as well. Keenan is out at defensive line, most likely. Actually, he's questionable, but we'll see. A running back, a couple corners are questionable. So it's not like Alabama's not without their issues. Jam Miller is going to play, so at least they got the running back who played last game. But, situation here, my numbers have got Indiana -8, -8.5-ish. I think there is a chance that Indiana could shit the bed. We saw Indiana play close games before, right? A little bit too close for comfort against Iowa, too close for comfort against Oregon until the end of that game, too close for comfort against Penn State, where you needed a Heisman-like play from Mendoza to win that game. And it was very close against Ohio State. Wouldn't shock me if this is close, but it's also at the same time, my numbers really lean Indiana here. So, instead, I'm going with the under. I like the under here. I really believe that 48.5 is too many points here for these types of defenses and this types of situation. So, we talked about it last week a little bit with Brad Powers. But, I came around that night and decided to take the under 48.5 here. And I like that for 2 stars.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountains?
Next game, Ole Miss versus Georgia, the All-State Sugar Bowl. Georgia's minus 6.5-ish. It's mostly 6.5 now. Total 55.5. Shows you there could be some points scored in this game. And it's at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. Thank God it's not the Mercedes for Ole Miss. But Ole Miss got a net yard per play advantage of .51. Key stats, Georgia's had the harder schedule, ranking 13th to Ole Miss at 41st, but it's a pretty big line. The Rebels, 12th in offensive EPA, Bulldogs 25th. Georgia ranks 29th in defensive EPA, Ole Miss ranks 39th, advantage Georgia. Coaching advantage, Georgia, Kirby Smart for sure. No Lane Kiffin there, and this is where it could stick out, is what Brad Power says. But only ranking 49th and 48th in rush EPA to Ole Miss ranking 104th in opponent rush EPA. So Georgia doesn't run the ball as well as they used to, and they don't play defense as well. Now, they still play great defense, just not as elite as they used to be. Georgia's got to capitalize on the ground, I believe. I think that the fact that Ole Miss saw these guys really makes it interesting. I gave out Ole Miss at +7. It was the only one that me and Brad really disagreed with last week. I mean, main one, without just kind of leaning. I really like Ole Miss to cover. I think Georgia probably wins, but I think this is a really close game, and it's just going to come down to coaching at the very end. So I do have some agreement with Brad. I'm just not laying 6.5, 7 points. I like taking 7 points here. Pete Golding, The kids like him a lot over there. He'll also have some coordinators back for these games. Yeah, I think that Ole Miss is going to be live here. I gave them out as a beer bet banger at plus 225 last week to possibly win outright. Now my survivor, I have to go with Indiana in Georgia, but it'd be nice to double up here. Unfortunately, I used Ole Miss last week, and I just didn't think Ole Miss is going to win. But if I'm making this line, it's 3.5. I'm not making it 6.5, 7 where this line is. So I'm definitely taking Ole Miss, and find a 7. It's just a better number. The ReliaQuest Bowl, Iowa versus Vandy. Vandy, man, this line's moving a little bit. 5.5 total, 47.5. We gave this out at 6 last week already with Brad Powers, so it's going to stay at 6. But you better get it quick before this thing dips down to 4. I think it's on its way there. There's going to be motivation on both sides. Rick Ferentz loves to win bowl games. Not many opt-outs at all for either of these teams. Not many injuries, which is great to see. Net yards per play, it's massive to Vanderbilt at plus 1.42. Vanderbilt was kind of like a semi-playoff snub, and the way I would describe that is, you put in Alabama ahead of them after getting smoked. Now, do you not want to punish them for playing the championship game?
Looking for a home that keeps you connected to Silicon Valley without the usual barriers to entry? The Gates in Morgan Hill by City Ventures is a walkable neighborhood near downtown restaurants, outdoor trails, and an easy commute to the Bay Area. It's a small town setting with access to major career hubs. Every home is all electric with buyer-owned solar included. With limited availability, now's the time to take a closer look. Discover your new home at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
I don't understand that. So they're kind of snubby in a way. They lost to Alabama, but that was in Alabama. Anyways, both teams have the same strength of schedule, ranking in the top 24. The Commodores have a great offense, number 1 in EPA, number 4 in success rate. Iowa's got the solid defense, ranking 4th in EPA, 40th in success rate. This is really an underrated bowl game because it's the best bowl game that's not the playoffs, because these kids are playing. This ain't Texas versus Michigan. We'll get to that. But the interesting thing here is that in all of Iowa's losses, not one of them was by more than 5 points. That includes games against USC, Oregon, and Indiana. Not one of them was more than 5 points. Vandy has a very favorable SEC schedule with their only win against number 25 Missouri. So, Vandy had a good schedule. Now, Kirk Ferentz, 12-8-1 ATS in bowls like that. I see a Iowa ugly it up type game where they're going to tighten up against Pavia, and everyone wants a piece of Pavia right now because he talks way too much shit. Time for a little Big Ten to slap you in the face. So we love the Iowa plus 6, if you remember. I still like it a lot at 5.5. Tony Tiger Sun Bowl, Arizona State versus Duke. Duke minus 2.5, total 49.5. Kenny Dillingham is a fantastic motivator. Duke's motivation, I think, remains very high too. They want to prove that they should have been in the playoffs, even though no one in this world believes that, minus Duke fans. Even at 430 miles away, this is really a home game for the Sun Devils because the drive's not too bad. I've done it. I'm going to give Arizona State 2 points, but what sucks about ASU is they have a lot of players in the portal. He's going to allow them to play, so that's nice. But, Jeff Sims is going to start, and you might even see a freshman Cam Dyer get reps, and I don't like that. I think that situation will be dire if Cam Dyer comes in. Arizona State's got some opt-outs, though. Jordan Tyson, their best wide receiver, he's not playing. Why would you, Tyson? You made it to the playoffs last year. Huge legend at Arizona State. They're starting running back Relief Brown. Of course, they got Udo to back him up. There's just a lot more potential opt-outs and opt-outs for ASU than there is for Duke. I just really believe that Coach Manny Diaz has got these guys motivated. They just really, really, really seem motivated here. So I'm going with Duke here, and we gave that out also with Brad Powers as a best bet at -2.5. Now this thing's shooting up to 3. If you check our friends at FanDuel, it's still listed at -2.5. But it's kind of like I said, the path to victory for ASU is really running the football, but I'm not sure they're going to accomplish that. Udo is going to have to take the bulk of the carries. Kenny Dillingham, I think, is going to kind of treat this like a little bit of an expedition game himself. So he's going to give his freshmen some reps. You got to take Duke here at -2.5. I don't like it nearly as much at 3, so make sure you grab 2.5 if you haven't already. Michigan versus Texas. Texas -7.5. I wrote 8.5 because it was at 8.5 total. 45.5. Michigan's motivation is going to be high. This is Orlando, Florida, in the Cheez-It Bowl. And, Michigan's going to want to beat an SEC team. Texas, they feel like they deserve the playoffs, but Arch is more, starchy this year, and they'll have a medium motivation. Shit tons of opt-outs. There's a bunch of potential opt-outs. There's Michigan injuries. It's funny, I wrote this 2 days ago. I have to keep looking at Stuckey's article because, things change so fast. Looks like edge Derek Moore, linebacker Jay Sean Barnum, and left guard Giovanni El Hadi is opting out for Michigan, and Bryce Underwood's going to play. So that's good, and it's something. I will say both teams do have good recruits kind of coming up to play this bowl game anyway. Biff Poggi says he does expect some more opt-outs than those guys, so it's really hard to still make a decision, even though this game is 3-4 days away. Not even. It's like 2 days away. But you got a lot of injuries for Michigan. Justice Haynes to be determined if he can play. Running back Jordan Marshall, the other running back, he's injured. It's just a lot of injuries with Michigan. But if you look at Texas, they have a ton in the transfer portal too. They have a bunch of opt-outs, a safety, 2 corners, starting corners, linebacker, edge. There's also some potential opt-outs as well. Texas did fire their defense coordinator, Pete Kwiatkowski, and hired Will Muschamp. So, I don't know if that really does anything to this game. So kind of breaking this down a little bit, there's nothing to break down, sadly. This is the opposite. This is the entitled bowl, because you see at Vanderbilt and Iowa, a Big Ten versus SEC, almost nobody, if most likely nobody opting out, and this one's got a bunch of problems because these players feel entitled. Kind of annoying to me. Whenever this situation happens on both sides of the ball, it makes me want to take the dog, especially when it's 7.5. I'm probably going to get there. Texas has a horrible offense, ranking 102nd in success rate. Texas had the hardest ranked schedule, though, 16th, and Michigan's 27th. Yeah. Bryce Underwood plays. I believe he's going to play. He got paid. I have a strong lean to Michigan here right now at +7.5. I did not take it yet. But most likely that will be a play. The SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl, Nebraska versus Utah. Utah now down to -14. I wrote 15.5, but things changed with the announcement of Dillingham heading to Michigan. Total of this game is pretty low. Well, it's not terribly low. It's 50.5. Let's see if that's the same. Yep, still 50.5. So, this is kind of bowl that, you look at it and you're wondering really what you're getting out of these players. I put both should have some medium high motivation, but, Nebraska's got a bunch of transfer portal. Raiola didn't play the last 3-4 games, as you know, and same with Marcus Davila. No, Nebraska's got a few opt-outs. A running back, Emmett Johnson, center Rocco Spindler, a few other potential guys. They have some injuries. Quarterback TJ Latif, he needs to play. And so let's see if there is an update on Latif here. And, oh, no, he's a full go. So that's what moved the line kind of down. All right. Not a lot of opt-outs for Utah. Although they are missing their left tackle and their right tackle, Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano. So, and a defensive end, Logan Fano. I guess Devin Dampier could end up opting out. He probably won't, though. By now that we know that. I guess he said he'd play, so that's good news for Utah. But it's just a situation where this is a massive line again. And now you lost your coach. He's stepping down to take the Michigan job. He's not just retiring, clearly. Now, the weirdness is that they really like him. And I like Dillingham. I like Whittingham. What's funny, Michigan both went for the Inghams, Dillingham and Whittingham. Whittingham's obviously the older one heading over. I like the hire. Some people don't, but either way, that's another topic of discussion. Utah's got a few guys on the injury list. John Henry Daly, one of the best defensive ends in the country as well. So they're going to be down some guys. The only way I could go is the Nebraska team total under, because I just believe Utah's defense is that good. But I honestly just do not know what I'm going to get, man. I do not know what I'm going to get. Utah's defense coordinator Morgan Scalley's going to take over as the head coach, and maybe that fires up their defense a little bit more. I would assume you're going to get another one of those team totals around the 16-17 range, right? 14-point spread, 33-17, 33-16, 32-18 is more correct. But if they hang over 17.5, you're going to get a massive juice on that. But that's the only way I'd play this game right now. And even with Latif, I just don't think that Nebraska's out that good of a team, and they're going to struggle running the ball against Utah's front. So even with Utah's backups in, I think it's going to be tough sledding for Nebraska. By the way, Nebraska, they rank 130th in opponent rush EPA. So Utah's going to run all over this team no matter what. I'd still lay it with Utah if I had to, too. I'm going to keep watching this line, though. Next game, Friday, January 2nd, the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, Rice versus Texas State. Texas State minus 11.5. Total on this game, 58.5. This went way up. I'm going to have to change this, what I wrote down. This is 14.5 now. Holy smokes. I already gave Texas State out a while ago, didn't I? No, I didn't. I said I bet it with Brad Powers when he was on. But, man, this thing got high. Just probably more bad news for Rice is usually when this happens. It looks like their best receiver, besides their quarterback, Chase Jenkins, was added to the transfer portal. 653 snaps. And that's massive. And they're expecting a lot of opt-outs for Rice in this situation here. Another factor is Texas State has a plus 2.66 net yards per play over Rice. Rice is the worst team in bowls, with apologies to Central Michigan. But sorry, Rice is worse. And, God, I said this line was short at 11.5. Now it's at 14.5, and I just don't know what to do here. I don't want to count it at 14.5, so I'm not. So right now it's going to become a lean. But, man, I'll tell you this. I hope that you listened to what Brad said and got this one earlier. And I thought it was getting a little bit high at 11.5, but, geez, this is getting kind of crazy here, 14.5. I'd still lay it. If I had to lay it, I would. It just has to turn into a lean right now. Texas State started playing their best football over the last 3 games, so that's my thoughts on that one. Navy versus Cincinnati, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. Cincinnati plus 7. And, it's still 7. Total 55.5 on ESPN. Navy's motivation should be high because they're military. Since he's low, Sorsby won't play. Navy might have an opt-out in a defensive tackle, Landon Robinson. They got a couple injuries, a linebacker, a cornerback, but Cincinnati's transfer portal is ridiculous. Like, over half their defensive starters are gone. Literally. Like, over half. Even some of their depth is leaving, so that's really painful. You're going to see a lot of redshirt freshmen in there. Cincinnati is kind of getting close to not being able to field the team if this keeps up. But, they lost their cornerback coach, Eddie Hicks, to Arkansas, so he's taking a lot of that secondary with him. And I just think Satterfield's going to have it very tough here. He's going to have fourth-year senior Brady Lickenfield and freshman Samaj Jones probably starting here. But you're just going to get way more motivation if you're Army. I mean, you got to throw away the stats. Cincinnati's plus 0.85 net yards per play in a harder division. I mean, I'm sorry. I have to lean Cincinnati at 7, but I am probably not betting this game. It's just going to be ugly. And I just do not want to go against military academies. As Brad said, 18-3 ATS, now 19-3 with Army's cover for us 2 days ago. Duke's Mayo Bowl, Wake Forest versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State minus 2.5, total 56.5. I believe that both teams are going to be pretty motivated. Wake Forest is only 85 miles away, but I'm going to give them 2 points for home field advantage. Brad seems to think that it's going to be split. I disagree. Wake Forest transfer portal, a couple guys, a couple receivers, and a defensive tackle. Damon Claiborne, the running back, declared for the draft, but he's not necessarily opted out yet. The interesting thing to me is that Wake Forest has the best unit on the field in their defense, ranking 15th in EPA. My big worry is the fact that they tend to turn the ball over at -5 in turnover ratio. And I'm wondering if Wake can put up enough points in this game because Mississippi State might not always have the defense, but they do have some offense against some of the weaker teams. They can put up points. The Wake Demon Deacons offense, 117th in success rate. That's pretty bad. Let's wait for Blake Shapen to at least announce himself back in. Make sure he announces himself in. My number is really Mississippi State minus 2.5. I'd like to get a 4.5 in this situation, something a little bit better. If I'm going to jump in this situation, even Stuckey doesn't know yet either. We just do not know who's starting quarterback to make sure for Mississippi State. I think Shapen's going to play, and I think this line keeps going, though. So I'd much rather take the dog if I'm going to take it a lot later in this situation. Finally, we have the Trust and Holiday Bowl. Arizona versus SMU. SMU plus 3, 2.5, 3. Depends upon where you're looking. Total 51.5. Arizona's motivation should be medium high. Good bowl game. Showcase Fafita if he decides to keep play. It's a little bit. It's the last bowl game, so it's a little ways out here. But I expect Fafita to probably play and show boat for the NFL. And Jennings is going to play for SMU. Arizona's got a couple guys in the transfer portal, nothing serious. SMU has a guy there too. No real opt-outs. Arizona's got a plus 0.2 net yards per play advantage. The key stats, this is just a very underrated bowl game. I think this will be a great bowl game. Both quarterbacks are going to put on a show. But Arizona's defense is very underrated, ranking 15th in opponent pass EPA, 6th in opponent passing success rate. But SMU quarterback can get the job done. He either does it with his arms most of the time, then sometimes his legs. Jennings can run. I think that this could be a lower scoring game, even though the tempo is 15th for SMU. So I'm really confused with the total. I don't want to mess around with that. But, gun to the head, I am definitely leaning Arizona here. I'm not sure if I want to lay points just yet on that one. It's kind of weird. If this goes back to 3, I kind of lean SMU. But I think Arizona wins a very, very close game here with Fafita and the great season that they had. Well, there you have it, my friends. That's our bowl game plays. And, many of them, like we said, we already gave out with Brad Powers. But just to recap, we have a very strong lean to Michigan, plus 7.5. You know what? That's probably getting close enough to play, and I didn't give a lot of extra plays here. I'm going to play Michigan here. You can get it at FanDuel right now at plus 7.5. I think this gets down. With Bryce Underwood playing, I think this gets down to 7. We'll do that for 2 stars. Also, we like the Miami team total under 19.5. And we also like the Alabama versus Indiana under 48.5. So those are the 3 ones we added since the Brad Powers show. And you obviously got the ones that with the lines that already moved already. Well, here we are, my friends, cruising right into college basketball season. I plan on having a podcast about college basketball, a little bit more about the NFL this week, a little bit later this week. And then next week, we'll have our first look at the semifinals in college football, as well as Wild Card Week. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions for us, email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com, tweet us at theoddsbreakers. Remember to get in our wonderful Survivor tournament over at Splash Sports. So make sure you sign up for that when you have a chance. Can't wait to get into college basketball for the week. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and go get some winners.
Looking for a home that keeps you connected to Silicon Valley without the usual barriers to entry? The Gates in Morgan Hill by City Ventures is a walkable neighborhood near downtown restaurants, outdoor trails, and an easy commute to the Bay Area. It's a small town setting with access to major career hubs. Every home is all electric with buyer-owned solar included. With limited availability, now's the time to take a closer look. Discover your new home at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.